With the death of Solomon, the Bible says the kingdom of Israel began to unravel. It ushered in a period of nearly constant war for the Israelites. And it was during this time that voices arose in the land, starting to talk about the end times, what today is called Armageddon.
And now I'm about to enter Armageddon.
Believe it or not, the name refers to an actual place about a 3-hour drive north of Jerusalem.
You know, it's amazing to be here because according to the Bible, we're now living in the last days.
Armageddon is the Greek name for this ancient city. In Hebrew, it's called Megiddo. Many Christians believe this vast plateau will be the staging ground where the armies of the righteous and the wicked gather for the final showdown.
Soon, the world as we know it will come to an end, and that we'll live in a paradise earth where we won't have to die or get sick.
But while some focus on what they believe might happen here at Megiddo, the site itself gives us a nearly unprecedented glimpse back to some of the major battles of biblical times and helps us understand where those modern ideas of Armageddon came from.
So for me, Megiddo is a key for understanding the history of this country.
Our guide here is Israel Finkelstein, a renowned Israeli archaeologist who's directed the excavations at Megiddo for 20 years.
So perched on top here, you can see from all sides that it's such a strategic vantage point.
It controls the most important highway of antiquity in the ancient Near East between Egypt and Mesopotamia.
This stunning hilltop in northern Israel was once a city larger than ancient Jerusalem and hotly contested. These young, eager students laboring in the summer heat unearth history every day. This is a burial site from nearly 4,000 years ago.
So is that one skeleton?
There are actually multiple skeletons here.
And these massive jugs, that's so remarkably intact, isn't it?
Yeah. This is the last meal, or the meal for eternity, for the dead person.
Megiddo was fought over by all of the great empires of the region, the Assyrians, the Babylonians, and the Egyptians.
It's very deep here.
Yes, and also the amazing accumulation of layers.
And each victor would build on top of their vanquished foe, providing Finkelstein and his crew with an abundance of evidence from 1200 to 700 BC.
So we got about, what, 500 years
500
separating
years.
us?
The turbulent period of King David and King Solomon, as well as their heirs.
In these 500 years, there were 4 major destruction layers at Megiddo because of big wars.
The wars brought turmoil.
Rioting broke out.
Think of America in the 1960s, and at times like these, amid the unrest and confusion, there are always a few distinctive voices that capture the mood of the moment.
They were forced back.
The people who played that role in ancient Israel are known to us now as the biblical prophets.
The prophet is the one who calls us to do what is right at a time that it's so easy to do what is wrong.
And the Hebrew prophets cry aloud against their own people, against their own rulers, against their own aristocracy, for their unjust dealings with the people.
But they also offered hope. The prophet Isaiah comforts the king of Judah, predicting the birth of a child called Emmanuel, which literally means God is with us.
And what he says is, when that kid is still young enough to be eating baby food, the enemies you're worried about will be gone. They'll be conquered.
A couple of centuries later, the Gospel of Matthew picks up that prophecy in Isaiah.
But it's unlikely that Isaiah intended his prophecies to hold such meaning even centuries later, much less in our own day.
People didn't write down and pass on the stories of their families and their people in order for a bunch of Americans a couple thousand years later to learn about their own worlds.
But prophets also spoke of a day when the Lord would make a new covenant. The temple would be rebuilt, and the land would be ruled by a righteous leader, a figure who came to be referred to as the Messiah, God's anointed one.
This is a cemetery outside the walls of the old city of Jerusalem. In fact, this is a valley filled with cemeteries, Jewish, Christian, and Muslim, all lying side by side in death, because they all believe that the words of the prophets will be fulfilled, that the Messiah will come to this very valley, and they all want to be first in line when he raises the righteous from the dead.
The valley, called the Kidron, is the final scene of that final fiery battle between good and evil, accompanied by a mass resurrection of souls who'll be gathered into God's army. And half a world away in Kansas City, Missouri, we went to meet some American Christians who are ready to enlist now.
So our search has brought us to a strip mall in the Bible Belt, to a building that's called IHOP, which frankly most Americans would associate with pancakes.
But they're not focused on breakfast at this IHOP. This is the International House of Prayer.
Where are we right now as far as you're concerned? Have the end times, end days started?
Yes, I think we're in the early stages of that story coming to a crescendo.
Jesus is coming back to the earth, and he is coming back to the earth to establish his kingdom on the earth.
For the last 13 years, 24 hours a day, there's been a non-stop prayer service here. Mike Bickle, the founder of IHOP, told us it's modeled on a round-the-clock musical worship service from the biblical story of King David.
So you're literally taking something from the Bible and enacting it here today, from the Old Testament. Sounds a little bit odd.
It is odd.
It is.
I tell people when they ask me what do I do, I go, it's really strange, but it's really exciting.
Bickle's ministry now boasts over 2,000 members and counting.
When I was about 13, I actually found IHOP on the internet, and I met him, and we've been dated and got married in July, and we just love being here together.
In fact, prayer gatherings like IHOP have been popping up all over the United States and across the world.
Are you a prophet?
No, I'm a...
Does God speak to you?
Yes, God speaks to me, but I think that God speaks to everybody who has a relationship with him. I reserve the word prophet. I use that very, very sparingly because that means Old Testament stature. That's pretty intense.
So for now, Bickle and the IHOP faithful continue to spread the gospel every minute of every hour of every day while they wait.
Will I see it in my lifetime? I don't know. I don't even care really. I just want to do my part in my generation, but I might.
They are a controversial ministry, and critics say they prey on vulnerable people with words never intended to be used in this way. But at the very least, they are living proof that the words of the prophets themselves remain as controversial as they were in their own day.